Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a couple of different charts, but overall the charts have been holding pretty steady and haven't really changed all that much. So we're kind of in one of those spots right now where we're literally just sitting at a coin flip, watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into the charts. For additional information and exclusive perks, do consider joining me and the rest of our community on Patreon. Now first off, taking a look at the Telcoin chart, this is the monthly chart. Just to give you a better idea of what the overall pattern is showing, price has been trading within this well-defined channel basically since it started trading all the way back here in January of 2018. Since that time, price has never broken below this lower trend line. Price is now trading right here in this area near that same trend line. Now switching over to the weekly so that we can dial in a little bit closer, you can see that we had a 5-wave Elliott wave move to the upside here, followed by a WXY correction. Price is now trading within this slightly descending triangle pattern right here. Price has also tapped into this bullish fair value gap on the monthly chart on 3 separate occasions. And it really looks like Telcoin could be coiling up here for something big. Now which direction remains to be seen, but when looking at the CCI indicator trading towards the bottom range, I think it's very likely that the move we're going to see is going to be a breakout to the upside at some point, moving up and challenging this bullish fair value gap on the monthly. I do believe that Telcoin is extremely undervalued, and in the long term is going to present very good returns for the people who bought in low and were willing to hold and to be patient. This isn't something that's going to 10x overnight, although this is crypto and that certainly happens. But Telcoin is one of those hidden gems. It's going to take some time for everything to play out. It's just a matter of being patient. But basically, in terms of crypto right now, there are 2 companies out there that have major potential to actually become banks themselves, one of which is Telcoin. The other of which, and one which is behind Telcoin currently, is Ripple. And even though they are kind of in that same market range, I think these 2 companies are going to serve 2 completely different purposes. And if there ever was a case for a little guy being acquired by a much bigger player, Telcoin would likely be one of those companies. I'm not saying something like that's going to happen, but it certainly could. But Telcoin is miles ahead of everyone else, and it's very likely that it's going to become the world's first crypto bank or digital asset depository, however you want to look at it. I own Telcoin, and I am still to this very day accumulating, building a position for my long-term holdings that I'll plan on holding till about 2030, 2032 minimum. But overall, I really like the pattern that I'm seeing forming right here, right now. I like the way this looks. It doesn't mean this can't break to the downside and give us opportunity to buy cheaper, but it definitely looks like it's setting up for a potential move here at some point. It certainly won't happen tomorrow. Now, it's also been very interesting watching the markets recently because we're sitting here watching the stock market literally in a melt-up phase. It just seems like no matter what happens, the markets just will not go down. I remember sitting back 10 years ago with a friend talking about Dow 20,000 and just being so blown away that the Dow had actually hit 20,000. And now I'm sitting here looking at Dow just a hair under 50,000, which is absolutely mind-blowing. But when you think about all the fake money that they print and pump into these markets, it makes perfect sense why we're seeing what we're seeing. The dollar's down just a little bit. The volatility index is basically just holding firm. We've been seeing quite a correction with gold and silver recently, and as I've been talking about, I still believe at some point we're going to see this gap right here filled on the chart, which we see here in gold, and which we also see on the silver chart right here. With silver, it's sitting about $40.21 centered. With gold, it's sitting right here at about that 3,463 range. Definitely something you want to keep your eye on. We've also been watching XRP and BNB flipping positions back and forth, but overall we saw a pretty decent move heading into this morning, but now we're really seeing the prices start to fall. And ZBCN definitely took a big hit today. And it's very interesting, if you watch Telcoin and ZBCN, they will play this back and forth game to where one gets ahead of the other and then it'll switch and then it switches again. And I'm not quite sure what's going on with ZBCN, but it was up pretty decent last night and now it's down about 7.5%. Velo made a pretty decent move last night and into today, but I can't help but to wonder if this flash crash that we recently saw in crypto on the 10th, which literally just liquidated everybody. $20 billion taken right out of the market, literally in the blink of an eye. Some people I've been reading about have been talking about it even being in the hundreds of billions total. But I can't help but wonder, especially when looking at the United States stock market, if there may be a time where we're going to see something very similar to what we saw during the flash crash in crypto actually happen to the stock market. Now, we all know that the markets are rigged. There's no question about it. This game has been specifically designed to enrich the rich and keep the little guy little. The SEC is literally nothing more than a figurehead designed to basically stifle innovation and competition. But if you think about it this way, insiders within the market have been selling at a record pace. If you go and look at the numbers, you'll see that almost nobody is buying, but all the insiders are dumping. They are selling into this momentum. And this has been going on for well over a year, with smart money basically getting out right through here. Now, what we saw in the crypto market with the flash crash, in my opinion, was no mistake. They cleared out that lower liquidity for a reason. Now think about it for a second. If you was one of these insiders that sold all of your stocks at the peak of the market, you're sitting on a nice position of cash. And the stock market experiences a flash crash similar to what we saw in the crypto markets. You sitting on cash would literally not lose anything, but everybody holding stock would get hammered during that time. We would see liquidations that would make the crypto market liquidation look like a drop of water in a bucket. The comparison between the two isn't even comparable. Now, this would likely bring the crypto market down with it. So if you just exited the stock market at all-time highs, commodities like gold and silver have gone on an amazing run. Where do you put your money? You certainly don't want to sit there in dollars, because dollars are constantly being devalued. I think the place that they would want to put their money would be in the right cryptocurrencies, the ones that have real-world utility. Hint, hint. So while the stock market crashes, bringing down basically every market, including crypto, that would be the perfect time for all these insiders who sold right in this area here to enter into the market at a discount. Then, as the crypto market recovered, they would be making profits instantly. Because we know that the utility-driven cryptos are basically the currency of the future. And why the average guy, like me and you, loses 30, 50% of our net worth as the market crashes, while crypto recovers, think how much harder that would be for you to purchase crypto at that point. If you had a $100 stock and it went down to $75, and then crypto prices, say XRP for example, doubled in price, now you're at a huge disadvantage trying to buy XRP. But if you sold at the peak market, taking the full value, moved that cash into crypto while the crypto market was crashing, all you did was continue to make more and more profit. So if there was a situation to where the market did crash and big money hopped right into the utility-driven cryptos, which would likely drive the prices way higher, we would end up seeing a situation where the average guy's ability to buy into the utility-driven cryptos would be severely diminished. And since the markets are rigged, and we all know that, I think there's a very good possibility that at some point we could see a major shakeup within the United States stock market. Gold didn't just run up to $4,400 plus for no reason. So that's just something to think about. Now, jumping over and taking a look at XRP. First off, you'll notice that this chart is incredibly busy. It looks like a couple kids went crazy on this thing after having too many sodas, a little bit too much sugar, and were just having fun with all of the tools over here in the toolbar. But believe me when I say everything on this chart definitely has a purpose, even though I might be the only person in the world who can actually read the darn thing. So we'll jump over to the weekly chart just so you can get a better idea of what we're looking at overall. On the chart right now, we're showing a 5-wave move to the upside right here. Wave 3 down to the 4, of which we are now trading within the wave 5. Jumping back over to the daily, you can see that we have a WXY within that pattern, which formed the wave 4 of that 5-way move, with the flash crash coming down here, which was the termination point of this subwave ABC. But when we zoom in, not a lot has changed since the last video. After the flash crash, the price basically had been trading right here within the equilibrium zone, turning it from green to red, green to red. Now we're back into the green and are actually trading outside and up and above the equilibrium zone, which is a good sign. That's what we want to see. But it does concern me a little bit that we're sweeping the liquidity of this previous high right here. But oftentimes what we'll see is this candle right here that you can see is price will revisit the body of this candle right here before seeing a turnaround and a move to the upside. Now, there's no guarantee that's going to happen, but I have seen this happen many times, and I will show you on this chart the last time that it happened. Coming back here to the previous breakout, we can see that same pattern. When price was trading in here, it dropped down to this low right here, broke to the upside, then came back down right here to this point before making this breakout to setting the current all-time high. Now, if we zoom in on this particular candle right here, which is the equivalent to the candle I was just pointing out, you can see that the price came right down here. And if we go off of the top of the body of this Dragonfly Doji, you can see that that candle barely wicked into that space before it took off, right here. Now, if you look at the chart, you can see we have a very similar pattern to where this was the low of the pattern here before it retested that candle and broke out to the new all-time high. This right here is the low of the current pattern. So there's a very good chance that we could see that same thing with price coming down and revisiting the top of this candle here at about $2.33 before seeing a move to the upside. Now, there's certainly no guarantee that's going to happen. But as a trader, that line right there is what I would be watching for. If the price starts to come down, I would be watching for a reversal here in this area. I'm certainly not recommended that anybody trades this, but it's something that I would keep an eye on, and keep in mind this is on the daily chart. But I've seen this pattern play out over and over and over. And if you use that knowledge right there and look back on previous charts, you'll be surprised how many times you see this candle right here being the area of the final retest before the breakout happens, as we saw right here. I've also been pretty busy, so I haven't had time to put a video out for about 4 days, as we're getting ready to start moving into winter, so there's a lot of preparation that we need to make, prepping our cars, getting all sorts of things ready. Anybody who lives up in the northern area knows exactly what I'm talking about. We've already got a nice line of snow along the mountains. It's just a matter of time at this point. And for those of you who have followed my work for quite some time and are aware of the XRP Moon Dream, I certainly will be watching that time heading into the full moon on November 5th. Because there was 3 parts to that dream that really stood out to me. Crawling over the mural of Apollo within that Roman-style building, which symbolized, in my opinion, 9/11, which correlated to the 10/10 date that we saw the flash crash. Then once I got to the balcony, the liquidity was pulled way back, so when everybody jumped off the balcony, they got hurt because there was no liquidity to land in, which is exactly what we saw, and which we now know the market makers and the exchanges pulled all the liquidity off the market to exasperate the crash that we saw. That's 2 points hit right on the head. The only thing left now is for the moon to come out over the mountain. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means, and I'm not guaranteeing you that anything is going to happen. But all I can tell you is after seeing the first 2 points of those 3 points line up with the dream I had, I'm certainly going to be watching the full moon coming up. And even if nothing does happen, I think it's very interesting that we saw those 2 points line up already. So that'll definitely be something to watch. And that's also not the only dream I've had. I've had a couple dreams about Elon Musk, both of which had completely different premise to the dream, but the same ending. I've also had 2 dreams now in regard to Britain, and potentially a third. I'm still thinking about it. I don't quite understand what it meant, if anything at all. But I'm going to wait, see what happens with the full moon, if anything, and then I'll likely share some of those other dreams moving forward. But I have no idea whether or not those have anything to do with reality, but I do find them very interesting. And if you've been thinking about trading, check out Bitunix. It's the only place that I trade, and it's where I swap all of my cryptos. And if you'd like to save some coin on your swaps, this is definitely the place to do it because you can swap your cryptos for 0 fees. So check it out. You'll be glad that you did. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Good luck. Have a great day. And know the best is yet to come.